So as you go through the book, don't try to absorb everything the first round. Just just get familiar with it. Just literally just read through, highlight, items that you want to go back to. But the point is not to absorb in the first round. The point is to get familiar, right? And read it at your own pace. Try to get through it before we get to week 5. And week 5, you read it again. And now that you have highlights, you have some notes, you've been through at that point, 20 hours with me and what is that, 10 hours with Michelle, so 30 hours. So as you go through it the second time, it will be you'll see in a very different light. But what I don't want you guys to do is to try to approach it as, you know how typically in class you try to, like, okay, next week we're going to do chapter 3 and then read chapter 3 and then we test chapter 3, because here that's not how it works. We only have one test, right? And the test is all the way at the end, and that's your PMP test. So for a lot of you, that the terms are going to be, pretty new, and that's okay. So the reason we made this 10 sessions is that over the course of the 10 sessions, hopefully you'll see the terms 2, 3, or 4 times, right? And by the 4th time, that's when it starts to sink in. So don't feel bad if, for example, you're going through the book and you're only got through chapter 1 or chapter 2, and we're already, on the 3rd Friday. That's perfectly fine. It's more about getting familiar, the second time absorbing, and the third time is mastering, right? So as you start preparing for the test, then you're focusing more on the question. So once we start getting into, week 8, 9, and 10, that's when you guys are going to be more focused on the questions. And then it's a matter of volume, right? You're taking a battery of tests. And so after that, hopefully, once we complete, you'll have 4 weeks on your own to do even more testing, this time online testing, and that should get you ready. So while we're on this topic, I'll just close this out with, ideally, I want students to start signing up once you start hitting 6 out of 10, right? 6 out of 10, go ahead and start signing up for the test. That's applying for it, putting in the paperwork, your projects and things like that. And once you get to 7 out of 10, then you can book your test, a few weeks out. Because once you start to hit 7 out of 10, you're pretty good. If you start hitting 8 out of 10, then that's like 97% assurance you'll be passing. So the magic number is 7. So cool. All right. Well, welcome, welcome, welcome. We're now starting day 2 of our 10-day journey here with you guys. We'll continue on. For today, we'll finish up module 1, right? So we got through half of module 1 last time, and we'll finish up module 1 today. But before we start, I'd love to get feedback in terms of the sessions with Michelle that you guys had, or any questions that might have come up from our first session.
Regarding the session with Michelle, I did find it kind of difficult to, we had that quiz at the end, but I felt like it was like how, it felt very crunch because we only found out what chapter we were covering like the day before, I think.
Got it.
So it was like felt like trying to speed read. And I know we have time to do the test and stuff, but I just felt like it put me like, in a spot where I wasn't able to really absorb things.
Good.
So yeah, then knowing in advance a little more, couple more days, I feel it'd be easier.
Yeah, the second
Let
your
me-
statement, I think that's what I was trying to say earlier too, is, and I don't know if I'm just, this documentation has been out there and I just missed it, but if there would be a heads up around the class is gonna be covering chapter 4 or pages so and so on the book, like that would be incredibly helpful, especially for a lot of us that are balancing multiple things going on in our life and trying to fit this in.
That is good feedback. I will send the feedback right now. I think there's a schedule in your classroom that she has up there. That has like what are the the knowledge areas for each week. But I'll let her know. Let me just send feedback here. And thank you guys for sharing the feedback because I want to know this now so that, we can help you along the way. From the group, can we send a reminder of the chapters being captured for the week so they can read in advance? Awesome. Any other feedback? And again, I appreciate you guys for being open about this because we only have one goal, and that's to give you guys the best experience. And Francisco, from my end too, I'll try to correlate the slides that we have with the book. It's not a one-to-one because as you can imagine, the book is quite lengthy. But at least you'll have an idea of, where they pulled, where PMI pulled the slides from and around what chapter, so you can start taking a look at that. So I will do that as well.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, no worries. I'm just happy you guys are reading. Are you kidding me? Usually I have to bug people week 5, like, hey, you know what color the book is? I'm just super happy you guys are reading. Awesome. Anything else before we jump in? Looking good? All right.
Yes, sorry. Hi, Ian. I wanted to reference the study session reference guide.
Yes. Mhm.
Yes, she does have a schedule on there. That was a question that I asked after the first study session.
Mhm.
That's on the Google, where it outlines each week, and the number of the study session. But I think that to the points that have been made, because there's been so much information, it's been
Yeah.
hard to kind of connect the
Yeah.
dots and realize like, oh,
It's
integration
it's
is study
integration.
session one, right?
Yeah,
And then that's on page such and such because it really doesn't start
absolutely.
from the beginning.
No.
Um, it started like at page 69, and that threw me for a loophole as well. I did have another question to ask, and that is, um, I apparently I don't know if the Zoom links are the same in the location versus in the body, but several of us clicked the Zoom link for today and it brought us in a totally different room. So I'm
Oh.
Yeah, I agree. It
oh,
was like I was the first one who joined it, then Edward, Edward stopped, and Leona was there. So I have to ask one of my peer, that is Speak. Thanks, Speak, for giving me that Zoom link. So yeah, I have to forward to the link. So I was able to join the session. So I'm a little bit kind of confused too on that.
yeah. So just a heads up. I
Thank you
think I
for
think I think Ernesto may be out, but just a heads up, maybe to make sure all the links are the same.
Yeah, so the good news is that the Zoom link is the same all throughout, right? We're just using this one Zoom link that you guys are on. I'm looking at I'm looking at the invite here, and let me share my screen and help me help and again, guys, thank you for sharing all of this because we are in the adjusting phase of things, so tweaking it, so everything works fine. So here's the invite that Ernesto sent. So the one in the location ends in 0465, right? That's the Zoom link. So this is 0465, 0465, and 0465. If who saw something different, if you don't mind sharing your screen, because I'd love to be able to help troubleshoot with Ernesto. I'm gonna stop sharing my screen 1 second. Once I figure out the controls. Am I still sharing?
I can share.
Okay,
the
cool.
screen.
No.
Please, yeah. Love to see it.
Okay, so I'm started sharing my screen. It should be there.
So at
You can see my screen here, and you can see everyone can see my screen, right? Or no?
yeah, hold on, just make it a little bigger.
Yeah, I can see.
Yes,
Okay.
There you go. So
and hers is correct. 465,
Yeah.
right?
yeah, so
Yeah.
so 0465, 0465. And if you don't mind scrolling down, because I know that there's more mentions of it. So there's 0465 there and 0465.
Yeah.
Not sure what happened, but your info is correct, which is good.
Yes.
Maybe I'm just guessing. Maybe there was a previous Zoom link and maybe the cache just didn't update and brought you to a previous one. But the good news is you have the correct one. Now
Yeah.
let's look at the afternoon one. Want to make sure that you have the right afternoon link.
Okay.
So close this one out. Yeah, open that up. So 0465, 0465, and okay, so it looks like you're all good for today. And if for whatever reason you find yourself in a different room, you can always go back to the previous week, because I only use that same link to make it easier for everyone.
Okay. Sounds good.
No
Thank you,
worries.
Ann.
Yeah. Want to make
We
sure
were just wondering why nobody was joining, but we were the only ones. So
yeah. Did they go to Huntington Beach and not let us know? Yeah. All right. Thank you. Awesome. Any other housekeeping items, guys? Very good. Okay. And again, as things come up, I really appreciate you guys for speaking up, because it helps everyone. Chances are, if you have a question, someone else has the same question. So thank you. And Michelle responded she will be sending those chapter pages out to you guys as well. So. All right. So jumping right in, and we're still recording. Yep, still recording. Cool. So make sure didn't lose it. Okay. Thanks, Kelly. Yeah, we do have a breakdown, but I could have her resend that out. And let me add it to my notes. 1 second. No, 1 second. What do you guys use for your for your task app? I use Microsoft's To Do. Do you guys use like any other tools for like just quickly jotting down like
I think we just use the same thing, Teams, task planner.
task planner? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Now like for like for everyday stuff. Like I put here, by Tide, like everything that comes up, I just throw it into my Microsoft Tasks. Do you guys use any other app that you found that you like to just capture?
I use OneNote and have a dedicated page for like follow-ups.
Oh, nice,
I've,
nice.
I found that having too many to-do lists or too many applications just makes it more complicated. So it might not be the best, but at least it's like one tool to rule them all.
One tool to rule the world.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I use Outlook just for the reminders. So I just
Oh, you
set
throw in
the
Outlook?
schedule.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's right on
So
your
it just
calendar.
pops up every time, reminds me.
Nice, nice. Yeah. Awesome.
I
Yeah, I'm
use
always
OneNote
interested in
too.
the tools that folks use. Because if I don't put it on my to-do right away, it's not gonna happen. So thank you. All right. So continuing on from last week, we were talking about resource management. And we stopped at I think we stopped at 60 actually here. And so we'll go into more of the definitions of product backlog and all of that once we get to the agile modules. But suffice it to say, as you're looking at the work, there are different ways of analyzing, prioritizing the work. And these are just examples. So, must have, should have, could have is one of them. Uh, reviewing product backlog. And in agile terminology, a product backlog is just, these are the features that we need to create or build, right? It's just a list, right? Just a list that we need to create or build. That, well, obviously we haven't done it. So, and these are just some of the examples. You don't need to memorize them, but suffice it to say that whatever technique you have, the most important thing that is you have a way to prioritize, right? The task in front of you. Performance reports, for me, and I'll give you an example. The simplest of reports is the best of reports. The more complicated the report is, the more chances that people will make their own interpretations. Do you guys agree? So for me, just in general, less is more. But the best report, performance report, in my mind, is when when Facebook came out with the thumbs up, and that was applied by other companies in terms of customer satisfaction, the thumbs up or thumbs down. That for me is just an amazing way of looking at um, performance, because it's really, really clean, really easy, really simple. And airports have started to use you guys familiar with kind of like the pain scale that has the different faces, like happy face all the way to like the happy face like green, and then you're in serious pain, it's like red and they're crying or something like that. I don't know if you guys have noticed, but at the airports, like in LAX and John Wayne and other airports too, they have these kiosks where you can click on your experience, right? With those faces. And for me, it's just amazing because you're getting instant feedback, right? So as you're going through, for example, the restrooms, and if it isn't clean, or you don't have what you need, as you go up, it's fresh in your mind. You see that, boom, you hit the red. Not happy. But if it's good, you hit the green. And so when you think of performance reports, try to find a way to make it as simple and as streamlined as possible. I'll give you an example. And Curlin actually is on the call. Hey, Curlin, I'm gonna call on you on this as well, because we worked on it together. Um, You there, Curlin? Must have
I'm
stepped out.
here.
Oh, there she go. So Curlin, I wanted to share our experience with our radiology we're in. They were trying to put together this turnaround time dashboard, and they've been working on it for at least 2.5 years, right? And every time they looked at it, there's more information that a stakeholder would want. Like, it would be nice if we added this, it would be nice if we added that. And now you have this ginormous, LAX international flight dashboard that is uber confusing, and it's hard to really figure out where things are at. So over the course of about, oh, what do you say, Curlin, 3, 4 months? We started to look at, okay, let's look at all of the dashboards you guys are looking at. So they had about 3 or 4 different dashboards. And then we started looking at what are the data points that you're collecting for each one, right? And then we started to look at what are the overlaps in the data points. And then we started looking at what's your data source, right? In Epic, in Clarity database. And then we started looking at the data IDs to see if everything lined up. And they were close for the most part, but they weren't exact. So then we're looking at discrepancies. As you extrapolate reports, as you guys know, a few seconds over time adds up. So we looked at all of that, sanitized the data, and then went back to the stakeholders and said, okay, if you had 5 or 6 data points that could tell the story from beginning, in this case, it was radiologist puts in the order or provider, right, for MRI or CT, all the way till the report was read, what would those 5 or 6 data points be, right? And this is vis-a-vis looking at all the other reports that's currently being collated daily, weekly, and monthly. And so we wrestled with that for about, what would you say, Curlin, 6 weeks? Going back to Brenda and team and coming back, wrestled until we found I think it's 5 or 6 that satisfied not just the needs, but we also had issues with negative time, meaning there were either the transport or the radiology tech would enter the times either too soon or a bit too late. So it would create discrepancies in the chronological order of the data in the back end. But we were able to leapfrog that with the right data points, right? And so going from this ginormous, 3 spreadsheets of data, we were able to pull it down to 6. And those 6 told the story. So there's this beautiful quote from Steve Jobs, which is complex is easy, simple is hard, right? So having 3 or 4 major spreadsheets to look at all the data, that's complex, but it's easy. Everyone pulls their own report. But being able to collate, review, distill, and have everyone agree on just 6 data points, oof, that was hard. It was simple. The output was simple, but the process to get there was hard. So I want you to remember this as you're looking at performance reports in your, line of work right now. And always ask yourself, how can we make this simpler, right? And what is the story that this is trying to tell? The goal of creating performance reports is not just to collate numbers. It's not just to gather data. The point of performance reports is to tell you what to do next, right? So there are 3 things that performance reports tell you, right? The first thing is if it's good, then continue, right? That's the first thing. If it's green, continue. If it's yellow, adjust. If it's red, stop, right? So try to create dashboards that quickly tell you the story that allows you to figure out what your next step will be. Okay? If it's green, continue. If it's yellow, adjust. If it's red, stop. So I hope that as you look at your reports, you'll hopefully see it in a different light. And there's two types of reports. So write this down in your notes for the test. Two types of reports. One is the qualitative report that tells you, that describes the quality. This is usually in text format. It's a description of how things are going, right? So it's text format, a description of how things are going. That's qualitative. And the other one is quantitative. And this one is numeric, right? And it tells you usually on a scale or a percentage of how things are going. So one is letters and one is numbers. One tells you a story, one shows you exact discrete numbers. So qualitative versus quantitative, right? And these are just examples of things that you can look at in your performance reports. Once we get to quality management, we'll dive into this much more. But just to give you a flavor, right, for today, you want to look at change requests. You want to look at defects. So does anyone, in your own words, can you tell me what comes to mind when you hear the word defects?
Issues,
What was it?
issues, problems.
Money, member dissatisfaction, customer dissatisfaction.
Not to spec.
Who said not to spec? Was that a you, Alicia?
No,
Yes.
Yes.
Maybe.
So for the test, defects mean not to spec, right? So there's two types of defects. So there's the defect from a pure quality perspective. You know, we said it was going to be 3 inches and this is 4 inches. So that's defective, right? But there's also quality type of defects wherein it doesn't meet the user's expectations. And so it could meet the exact measurements, but as the user is using it, they're like, oh, this is too short or whatnot. Then you have to go back and fix it. So, but for the test, especially if the question is around quality management, defects means defect is the difference between that which you planned and that which you obtained, right? So it's planned versus actual, right? So if there's a discrepancy there, that's called a defect. All right. Okay, let's see, anything else here? Work performance data is integrated and contextualized, again, to generate decisions, right? So the goal of the performance report is to help you figure out what to do next. And if there's any issues, anything that you need to bring to awareness to the different stakeholders. Agile projects include, okay, completed and accepted stories. Does anyone know what a user story is for Agile? Have you heard of this term, user stories? And again, doesn't have to be the accurate description. Just if you've heard it before, let me know what comes to mind when you hear user story.
So you're trying to ask what is agile, like in simple terms, or what?
So here we have they mentioned completed and accepted stories. I was just
Mhm.
wondering if anyone has come across the term user stories
Yeah.
before.
Yeah, I have in software development, project
Perfect.
management. So it's basically defining a deliverable in the format of a user, like what the user would want, right? What the user wants out of the, set of code. So yeah.
That's absolutely right. So simply put, a user story is a request or an ask from the user in their own words, right? And there's usually a format to it. Let's say, I'm Chris. I work as a, let's say a nurse on telemetry unit, and I need this protocol to include lidocaine, right? So there's components to it. There's you, the person requesting, your role, and what is it that you want to see. So that is like in the simplest form a user story. So again, you'll hear this and you'll hear the definitions over and over. So don't worry about not remembering everything during the first try. And again, once we get to quality, we'll go more into this. Product backlog, as I mentioned, this is a list of the requirements that are in your to-dos, right? We haven't finished this yet. So comparison of stores delivered and iteration plans is, okay, well, Chris, since you've heard of user stories, you've probably heard of iteration plans. Do you remember what context it was in?
Yeah, it's saying that it's basically dividing up your deliverables into phases. So we're gonna start here and then we're gonna iterate on it and iterate, and it's like continuous improvement of you start with an MVP and then you improve upon it over time.
Beautiful. That's exactly it. So iteration, another way of saying iteration is cycles, right? So how many cycles, how many times are we going to do this, right? So we're going to do, so let me ask Kyle. So Kyle, if I tell you we're doing 3 iterations of testing, what does that mean for you?
3 rounds of testing,
3
probably
rounds of
with,
testing.
updated logic in each round.
Exactly. So every round we learn something and we add it, right? And then we do it again. So think of, when you hear the word iterations, think of cycles, think of rounds. Okay. Awesome. All right, expert judgment. We talked about this last time. Does anyone remember what, in your own words, what an expert judgment or a subject matter expert is? Just in your own words. Is this the person with the highest title in the room?
Person who's in the front line, essentially performing the job function.
The person with, yeah, exactly. The one with the most specialized knowledge about the subject matter. So it's not necessarily the one with the highest title. Cool. All right. And experts come in different shapes and sizes, as you can see here, right? Resource calendar. For the test, I made you guys write down a note. You guys still remember what to remember for resource calendars? So you include when the resources are available, and also, what's the second part?
When they're unavailable.
And they're unavailable. So what are the things to consider when they're unavailable? You have personal time off and holidays, and you need to be sensitive, especially if you're doing virtual teams, because they might
They could be around the world.
and they might have holidays that you're not celebrating, and it's just not on your radar. And a big example is Diwali. It's a huge, huge, huge a holiday, and Sweta can talk to us more about this. So people are, well, celebrating with family and friends. So if you have remote support, do not schedule your go live around Diwali. That's like scheduling go live around Labor Day. Not a smart thing to do. So take a look at everyone's, national holidays, especially if you're looking at virtual teams. So, all right. We talked about resource calendar, right? And I have a question here. Okay. All right. So I hope you're starting to see, guys, that the first time we encounter a terminology, I stop and take time to explain it. The next time we go through it again, we go through it a little quicker. And then the third time, we'll just kind of breeze through it. So we'll have more time with terms that we haven't seen before. Is that format okay for you guys? Sounds good? Okay, cool. All right. Reviewing team performance and identifying lessons learned regularly. So let's go here. All right, so lessons learned register. This is a term that you have to be familiar with. It's pretty self-explanatory, but still, this is one of those that they will ask you in the test. So lessons learned register, it's a document used to capture the knowledge gained. Notice that it doesn't say the bad stuff that happened, right? It's knowledge. It's everything. It's the good, it's the bad, it's the ugly, right? So it's the knowledge gained during a project, right? So that can be used with the current project, right? Or for future projects. So let me break that down for you here. So first of all, lessons learned register, it's a document, it's a list, right? It's stored somewhere. And it captures the knowledge. So again, knowledge means what happened well, things that need to be improved, right? The good, the bad, and the ugly. So that's all in there. And here's a key, can be used for the current project. So what does this mean? You don't do lessons learned at the tail end, and that's it, right? You want to do it throughout the project. So a good way to do it is, let's say you meet a big milestone, right? Let's stop, let's celebrate, and let's also ask, right? Let's also ask, what did we learn? What went well? What could have been better? Does that make sense? So that as you go into the next milestone or the next phase of the project, you can use that lessons learned. Let's say, for example, a lesson learned would be, you know what, our team meeting at Friday at 3 o'clock is really hard because a lot of us are picking up our kids. You want to know that now, not at the end of the project. So you want to formalize it around milestones or phases. And you also have obviously a big lessons learned at the end, but all throughout every meeting you have, just ask quickly. If you guys noticed, before we started this session, what did we do? Before we started today's class, I asked what went well, what needs to be improved, right? So we literally just did a lessons learned about session 1, right? So that's what I'm talking about. And it doesn't have to be super formal. And the more actually, I think, you make it super informal, the more feedback you'll get. The way I ask lessons learned is, hey, is there anything that doesn't feel right? Is there anything that either keeps you up at night or you think about as you're taking long walks or long showers about the project? Just something that's just bugging you. And it doesn't have to be super specific. Just let us know what doesn't feel right. And usually what happens is people will start saying, man, I don't know. The schedule seems too aggressive. I don't know which part, we need to adjust, but it just feels super aggressive, right? So now you can start saying, okay, well, let's carve out 30 minutes. And as a group, let's take a look at the timeline, line by line, and let's figure out which task or activity looks pretty aggressive, right? Or if someone says, Jeffrey needs a lot of help, and I know Kenny is really willing to help out. But I'm just worried, Kenny, that you're gonna be burnt out. By the time we get to, month number 4. So I'm wondering if Jennifer can also help out so that Jeffrey has 2 buddies that he can reach out to, right? So things like that. They don't have to be super specific. They don't have to be super formal, but the more you ask people as you go along, just like what we did before we started, the more you can course correct. And these small course corrections, they might not be super palpable, but it definitely changed the outcome of the project. Does that make sense? Cool. Awesome. And so the goal is to improve, efficiency and effectiveness. And write this down for the test. When you're in an agile way of doing things, the term we use is retrospective. So lessons learned equals retrospective in agile. So if you're taking down notes, write that down. And it's done after an iteration to look at issues, solutions, so on and so forth. So for the test, lessons learned is retrospective. Okay. Special interventions. Intervals, sorry, not interventions. So you guys have been in projects, and for big projects, especially here at UCLA, let's say we're doing a major, epic upgrade. You have what's called blackout dates, right? Where there aren't any competing go lives, or you're not making major changes because it's all hands on deck, right? So for the test, when you hear the word blackout times, this is when you don't want to do or introduce anything new, right? We're not making any changes. It's like usually a week before go live, somewhere there. Everyone is just in preparation mode for activation, right? So that's not the time to say, hey, Kelly, can we change the color? No, no, no. We're not changing anything. We are going live, folks, and we'll make changes after. All right. Oh, sorry, skip that one. Okay, so empowering. So before we go into empower team members and stakeholders, was there anything here that we went over that you want me to go back to, or we're okay to proceed?
Can you go back to the special intervals real quick?
Oh yeah, of course.
I was just curious. Because you had
There we go.
blackout and then go live and then
Yeah.
okay, I see. All right, thanks.
No worries. All right. Okay. So empowering team members and okay. So as you can see here, we have 2 columns. One is the deliverable. So, you make decisions and you make estimates. And as you can see here, these are for those of you who like to look at topics and subtopics. So this is the main topic, creating a high-performing team. You guys remember from our first session. And this is the subtopic, empowering teams and team members and stakeholders. Okay. On Michelle's side in version 6, this would be under resource management. So if you're trying to think of like, where does this kind of line up? So we're doing resource management. Cool. All right, so for tools to empower teams and stakeholders, you have your decision-making tools. This is fun. So for the test, brainstorming, what did we say? Does anyone remember the tidbit I made about brainstorming last week?
Like all ideas are welcomed.
Yes. So during the first iteration, all ideas are welcome. If you guys remember my example of the literal post-it note that people put up on the wall, just put everything up, and then from there you start to filter. So for the test, the first iteration, all ideas are welcome. Fist of Five. This is, so, okay. These items don't necessarily show up on the test. There are just different tools that you can use. PMI doesn't really recommend, that you use Fist of Five or Roman voting or whatnot, but they're just fun to know. If you can, you guys, I can't see you right now, but can you see me? Okay.
Yes.
All right. So the reason I ask is because, so for Fist of Five, it doesn't just show if you're yes or no, but it also shows the intensity. So for example, let's see. So let's say Rich is asking, do you guys want to have hamburgers for lunch? Instead of just saying yes, I can do this, which means I like it 4 out of 5, right? So I really like hamburgers right now. And Kenny, burgers for lunch, Kenny, let me see your hand. 5, okay, so he really wants to do it. And you can also say no, and it's like a solid, yeah, exactly. So it's a nice way of figuring out, how passionate are you about, the item being voted on. So PMI is not going to ask you about that, but I just think it's a cool tool to use as you're asking folks, are you with it, against it, and how passionate are you about this? So that if you have a small minority, let's say that, how many of us are on here today? 30, right? So let's say that there's like 6 people that are passionate about going for Chinese food today, and everyone else is like, it's whatever. Guess what? We can go with the 6 who really want Chinese food for lunch, right? So it gives you an idea of how, uh, uh, not intense, but how committed, the level of commitment they have to that idea. The same thing too with Roman voting. It's just the thumbs up, thumbs down, and the sideways thing. Um, I'm pretty sure someone came up with that before the Romans, but we'll just, that's a different topic for a different day. And polling obviously is just, you're asking people. Plan poker, this is more elaborate where you could kind of do it like in a gamification way. Dot voting is, let's say you have, um, let's say we're I would do this for executives. We're in, let's say for the next fiscal year, we're thinking about, okay, guys, there's 20 things that we have on our initiatives for fiscal year 2026. We need to figure out the top 5. So everyone has, let's say, if it's 20 things, everyone gets 20 dots or 20 sticky notes, whatever it is. And then you can spread out your sticky notes with all the initiatives. Or if you really feel, let's say Jeffrey, he's really passionate about getting a new ambulatory system registration module. So Jeffrey can go ahead and put all of his 20 votes, right? All 20 sticky notes or dots or whatever, and just slam it on that ambulatory thing. Like, I'm gonna, all my chips just here. So by the time you're done with this exercise, you look at, of the initiatives, which ones had the most votes. Does that make sense? You guys with me? Able to follow? So that's like a dot voting. It's a fun exercise. Again, if you're doing it in person, it's way more fun because you get to have, people you give them either, physical like coin type things, or you give them sticky notes, and you have like, all of the options up on the walls, and then people get to cast their votes by putting the sticky notes on the initiatives that they want. So these are, let me call on Curly, and I'm gonna call on you today a lot because we're talking a little bit about performance excellence tools, and you guys do this more than most. Let me see. Are you still on, Curly? There she is.
I'm here.
Yeah. So, do you guys use something like this when you're doing those facilitation sessions, where getting people to vote on different things in terms of priority and stuff like that?
Yeah, we use this quite a bit, and especially if we're doing like a 5S, or we're doing like a Kaizen event where, you gather up a bunch of people to, in a day or two, right? To be able to look at a process holistically and sort of like visualize things. So a lot of the time when you go through prioritizing, based on, for example, if there were like several issues that were identified and you want them to start scoring them and prioritize what they want to do first, next, not at all, or never, then you can give them those sticky notes to sort of like based on the issues that you've identified, you give them the sticky notes to sort of like vote. So they'll go up. You can do this by teams, you can do team 1 is red and blah blah blah, and then in the end, after they're done voting, you can sort of see where everyone is at and who the clear winner is. I mean, that's just like one of them, but it can get more complex than that. I don't know, Ian, if that's what you wanted me to allude to.
That's
but
exactly it. Yeah.
It's
And
great.
and also the human side of it, it's a fun activity, right? People are getting up, they're moving around. And so the more that you can engage more senses, so there's a tactile component of it, and the more that the learning happens, the more engagement happens. So think about that as you're doing team building activities. Try to find activities where there's movement, you're engaging a lot of senses. There's sounds, there's sight, obviously, there's touch. And so it really helps. And again, for the test, what is a synonym for retrospective?
Lessons
Lessons
learned.
Lessons learned.
Lessons learned. And retrospective is used in waterfall or agile?
Agile.
Agile. Perfect. All right. Thank you.
Ian, can you share what management plan that fell under again? That slide that we just went over?
This one?
Yeah.
Yeah, so so this would, you're talking about for chapter 6?
Yes.
Yes, so this would be under resource
Okay, thank you.
management. Yeah. Of course. All right.
And what was that
Okay.
agile reference that you made just now after we did the,
Retrospective.
so it's lessons learned, retrospective, and then
Yeah.
agile, all three
Yeah.
together.
So,
Okay.
so when it's waterfall, the term that's used is lessons learned. When it's agile, the term that used is retrospective. So I want you to be very cognizant of this, because in the test, they might say, you're meeting with the team, you're going over this, that, the other, you're doing a retrospective, and what type of a project management approach are you doing, right? Is it waterfall? Is it Kanban? Is it agile? So the key word in that question is retrospective, right?
Retrospect.
When you hear that, it's like, okay, agile. I know where we're at. So. And if I change that word to lessons learned, then more likely than not, you're in waterfall. So as we go along, I'm going to have these, point out these key words to help you navigate what tool, what framework, what approach we're using. Cool. So we talked about team strengths and understanding what people are good at and what people are passionate about, and trying to align assignments to their strengths. And so there's this there's this fascinating test that I had an opportunity of taking. And what it does, it combines an extensive questionnaire with a DNA test, right? And so the DNA test looks at what are the things that you're inherently good at, right? Because obviously that's, well, your DNA. That's what you're born with. You came out with these genes, and people with this gene normally are good at this task. And I think Noreen, are you on? Actually,
I am on. I'm so sorry.
oh no,
I'm here.
you're good.
Yeah.
I just wanted to. Do you still remember? Were you in that session with Dr. Antoine Eid, where we were looking at the team strengths, and he was a neuroscientist.
Yes.
You remember? Okay,
Yeah,
cool.
I do. Mm-hmm.
So this is what I was talking about, guys. It's fascinating because we didn't get to do the genetics test with the ITPMO team, but part of what he does, and I had a chance to do it, is look at what are the things that you were born with that you were good at, and what are the things that you are good at now, right? So if you're interested in it, I'll drop a link. You guys can Google it. It's called Brain Print. It is, and I'll throw in the name of the doctor. It is so fascinating because for my test, for example, I was born intuitive. I was born more extroverted. I was born more as the person who enjoys being in the spotlight, right? However, when I took the test that asks you what are the things that you enjoy, right? And how would you approach things, different scenarios, I was the complete opposite. Now I'm more analytical. Now I'm more introverted. Now I want to be more in the back versus the one in front. And so it's just something that is completely fascinating how you could be born one way, and these are the things that you're naturally good at, but through life experiences, you might be good at something else right now. And I think, oh, we're at the hour mark. We'll pick this up in 10 minutes. But before we go, how was our first hour, guys? Too fast? Just right? Just right. Okay, cool. See, what did Victor do? He did what kind of voting was that?
He went
Did a thumbs
Roman.
up. Roman voting.
Roman,
There you
Roman
go.
voting.
There you go. Again, I'm sure someone did a thumbs up before the Romans, but it's a topic for a different day. All right, guys. See you at 11:13.
I'm so sorry. While we're on break,
Yeah,
are you
yeah.
able to send me and Carol the links because we didn't have a link to join today?
Oh. Hold on. Let me.
Hi, Ian. I actually gave it to her. It's Lisette. So I sent her, but I just gave it for today, not the whole series.
Oh, okay. So let's do this. So Cinderella, if you don't mind dropping your email in the chat, and there was one other that needed it.
Carol. I'll drop
Carol,
it as well. I'll put it in the chat.
yeah, put it in the chat. And what I'll do right now is I will forward it to you. Unfortunately, I can't make the edit because Ernesto owns it, but I can forward the series to you guys. So let me do that right now.
And then is there anything else we're missing? Because we just joined today. It's our first time.
Oh, no worries. So if you go to the Google Classroom, there's the recording for the orientation along with the deck. And then there's the recording for session, the entire day, the morning session and afternoon session of session 1, along with the slide decks are all in your Google Classroom now. But I did send out the meeting summary, and it should be in your Google Classroom as well. So yeah,
Okay.
so yeah, you didn't miss much. You have all of those materials there for you. So,
Okay. And then the books with Noreen will
Yes,
Okay.
so, yes, yes, yes,
So
Noreen.
just to make sure that she knows we need our set too.
Um,
Okay, thank you.
and, after the break, oh, actually, if, Cinderella, can I ask a big favor?
Yeah.
Can you shoot an email to Noreen and also throw in Carol's email, just so that, and CC me too, just so that we have that request in before we miss or forget.
She did send that already, and she
Oh,
just
good.
responded, yeah. That
Oh,
they're
beautiful.
not available yet. She just responded.
Oh, beautiful. Awesome, awesome.
Yeah.
Just want to make sure we didn't miss anyone.
Thank you.
Yeah, let me do
Is
this
that
right.
all we missed?
What was it?
A lot. I feel like we missed a lot. Terms and everything, and just wanted to make sure we have everything already then.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, there's the whole orientation slide, and that you can take a look. But don't worry, we will catch you guys up
Okay.
as you go along, and there's things that you're not familiar with. Just hit me up, and
Thank you.
yeah, so I forwarded, let me know before we go, or before I go, I guess, for a quick break. If you receive the morning session, and the afternoon should be hitting you here in a few seconds.
Yeah, cut the morning.
Cool, and the afternoon
Yeah.
is coming.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah,
I will.
received the afternoon as well.
Oh, beautiful. All right. So what did I just do there? I did user validation.
All right.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. All right. I'll see you guys at 11:13.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Hey, Lizette, how are you?
Hi,
Is that
Ian.
is that a
Hi,
peace sign or a Roman voting? What was it? Sorry.
Oh, I wanted to go back to something, the lessons
Yes.
learned that you opened up at the very beginning,
Yeah,
just for
let's do it.
clarity's sake.
Yeah.
Um,
Hold on, let me share my screen.
okay.
I'll get to that. I'll get to that.
So, okay. And
Please.
maybe lift up and maybe this should shed some light on some of the other
This one.
the alignment with the comments. So if you go to slide, I'll kind of go a little backwards. If for slide 14 from where we started last week, it
Sure.
says build a team. The topic A, resource stakeholder and communication.
This one. This one?
Oh, yes. Okay. Now maybe I may be because I searched the wrong thing. I was going based on slide 14 on my end
No worries.
says
What do you have?
it says the next one, your slide 15.
Here we go.
So I apologize because if I did a search the wrong way, actually let me do it right now just to see so I don't fall on my face when I ask when I we're
No,
creating
no,
a
you're good. You're good.
hi.
Don't be too hard on yourself.
Okay. Okay. So when I go to PMBOK 6 and I
Mhm.
look for creating a high performing team, I don't see an alignment. So I don't know if I'm searching wrong or not. But to the point of like in the beginning, the reference guide is really helpful because it tells you week 1 and it tells you the date and it tells you the study session and it says integration of PMBOK 6, right? Now, one of the things that we mentioned earlier is that it would be helpful to say, okay, integration is on page 69 through 127 so that
Absolutely.
we know exactly where to go for that, no matter if you're study session A or study session B. On the flip end of that, it would be equally helpful for like for instance, so for week 2 today, we would know where we are picking up within the PMBOK so that we can read. And so if I go back and I search this, I can't find this. And so I'm trying to figure out, okay, where's in the PMBOK so that it can be it can be correlated, right? So it creates a lot of cognitive overload because you're trying to look for and connect the dots of something where you don't know where the dots are. So I think that making those two that adjustment
Yeah.
on that study guide would really be very fruitful. And then
Absolutely.
the other piece is on the actual Google
That's right.
Classroom.
Mhm.
At the bottom where the modules are referred, the recordings and the slide deck, it has module 1 through 5, and then I think module 4 is broken down into 2. That would be helpful again if that correlates to the dates that we meet because
Yeah.
it says 5 modules, but there are 10 classes, and so we're sort of
Yes.
like staggered. So if
Yeah.
people are missing things and they're trying to figure, okay, which one did I miss? Where do I go to? Again, it frees up a lot of cognitive space in the
No,
brain.
that's great feedback. So for the modules, we have 5 modules, and roughly, it's about two sessions per module, roughly. And I say roughly because depending on the class, we might have areas wherein you guys want us to spend more time on quality management. So we take a little bit more time there. And then when we get to, let's say, for example, communication topics, you guys are breezing through it. So roughly speaking, it's 2 sessions per module. So like for today, our goal is to get through all of module 1, right? Because we're in session number 2. And so session number 3, we're starting module 2. Now we will, and I love your suggestion, Leona, so that it's quick and easy. You have this one chart, maybe two charts. One is for, you know, pin box 6 and one is for 7. And then it kind of gives you, okay, here's where we're going to be at, you know, we're planning to be at for. So you can take a look at, if you're going to be out, let's say, session number 4, what are the topics that are going to be discussed then? So you can kind of, you know, read through it. So we can
Right.
definitely do that.
Right, right.
So that's a great suggestion. Thank you.
And if it's not too much of a stretch so that we can prepare for next week, because I know
Sure.
to maybe update that takes some time.
Yep,
If
yep,
we
yep.
could just get an update for next week, session, September 22nd, if we
Yeah.
would, if we could
Oh,
know
yeah,
the
because we
pin,
don't have
yeah,
Labor Day.
yes, what's the PMBOK, oh my gosh, all the PMBOK 6-page correlation,
Gotcha.
and then likewise the slide
For
deck so
7.
that we can know where they correlate and be prepared. I really
Absolutely.
appreciate that. Thank you so much for willing to hear that
No,
explanation.
we're constantly taking, you know, feedback from every cohort and then adding it. So the next cohort will be better than this one, and this one was better than the previous. So, so for the test, what is that called?
Lessons learned? No.
3 letters or 3 words.
Oh,
What was your question again?
CPI. Oh, so I was talking about how, and correct me if I'm mispronounce it, Leona?
La'ana.
La'ana, thank you. And I
Yes.
apologize, I'm gonna mispronounce that 2 more times.
Just think of
La'ana.
Christmas. Fala lala. Fala lala.
Okay, La'ana. Anna was mentioning how, you know, these are things that we can improve. And I told her that we build upon the previous
Oh.
cohort. So this
Oh.
cohort is better than the previous, and the next one hopefully is better than this one. So my question was, what do you call that process?
No.
It's 3 words. CPI.
Continual process improvement.
There you go. Continuous process improvement. Yes.
I felt like I was on a game show
For
really quick.
200, right?
What is
What
continuous
is
I mean,
process improvement?
it's also not 3 words, but it's also
Yes.
iterative if you think about
Yes.
it.
Continuous
Process
process
improvement.
improvement. 3 words, right?
Yeah.
I was
No,
about to say,
no, what I'm saying is it's also iterative, like
yeah,
separately.
Yes, yes, yes.
exactly. I was
So
about to say that, then I backed off. Okay. I said
Continuous
something. Okay.
process improvement. Yeah. So yes, so that is absolutely the goal, so that everything that we learn here, we're going to incorporate it. But the beauty of it, since you guys are super open and sharing, we don't need to wait for cohort 2026 to make changes. We're doing it as we go along. So this cohort is taking advantage of all the feedback that you guys are giving, well, right now. So going back to lessons learned, you don't need to wait for a milestone. You don't need to wait for the end of the project. As you go along, something comes up. If you hear something, say something, right? So if you see something, say something. So thank you so much. And let me make a note. Let me send her a note. Let's work on same table for version 7, which incorporates the PMPOD chapters and pages for the different modules. There you go. Perfect. So awesome. All right, so now for the page numbers for my sessions, it's an approximation because again, we don't know when we finish, but at least it'll give you an idea that for module 1, it's page 161 to 200, whatever. So you have an idea of what to review. And so cool. This is great. Thank you guys. Anything else before we proceed? Guys, just give me 2 seconds. I need to take this call. Just 2 seconds. Thank you guys. I don't know if I mentioned this to you in the intro, but I created this GPT called Hannah. Did I mention this to you guys? And the GPT is intended to be an adjunct, an augmentation to therapy sessions that people are using. And currently, it's being used by a few rehab centers. And right now, it's also being used by folks. Have you guys heard of this group called Homeboys? Homeboys International. So it's the
Yes.
biggest.
Homeboy
yeah.
Industry,
Yeah,
Homeboy Industries.
Trace?
Yeah. Homeboys Industry.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, cool. Sorry, I can't see everyone. Who said yes?
Fa la 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 Anna. And by the way, don't say that part. Just think about it in your head. I think if Victor raised his hand
Yeah,
too,
me
they've
too.
expanded a lot over the
Yes.
last decade or so.
Yes. So, Victor, what do you know about it?
I know that it takes like former gang members. They start. I don't know if I know they started as a bakery, and kind of expanded. Like now it's like a restaurant. Their chips and everything are in all kinds of stores. So it took off. Like Lana said, the last 10 years or so.
Mhm.
They
But
Beautiful.
they
yeah,
have their own apparel line and they
Yes.
do volunteer work
Mhm.
in throughout the city.
Yeah. With primarily, but also, in addition to gang previously incarcerated, but also a lot of their initiatives support the reentry. Um, and by the way, we do have at least at one point we had a professor at Anderson that did a lot of work in research in reentry programs and did a partnership with Homeboy Industries as well for
Yes.
success for entry into the community because of the statistics of like returning back and making
Recidivism.
and make yeah thank you, recidivism, and making sure that they have the resources and the drivers that sort of impact that so they could
Right.
be successful.
Thank you everyone for sharing that. And tying it to our topic of resource management here. So I met with the founder, Father Gilbert Boyle, a few weeks back, and this is now a resource that some of the members, the ex-gang members, people who were formerly incarcerated, are now using this GPT that I created, and um, the feedback that I've gotten is that it it has helped in times where they couldn't find someone to talk to because it's a chat bot, it feels like you're talking to someone. And so I'll drop it in the chat for you guys if you want to check it out. If you're a subscriber of ChatGPT, the $20 a month, you get all the GPTs for free, including the one that I created, so you don't need to pay anything extra. And you get to, use it. So let me find the link and I'll send it to you guys. But yeah, so the the person that called was with the homeboys, and I try to, as much as I can, I try to pick up if it's one of their members that are calling me, because a lot of times it's not a good call. So try to see if I could kind of help them from relapsing or doing something that they would regret tomorrow. How's that? So thank you for allowing me to take the call. But yeah, so this is something I'm super proud of, because it has really helped a lot of people experiencing, loneliness, depression, or uh, bouts of relapse. So for whatever reason, I can't find it. So I'll look for it during the break and share it with you guys. So cool. I am so happy that there are tools that if I'm not available, people can talk to. And I was talking to someone yesterday, and she said that for different topics, she prefers talking to Hannah than talking to me directly. So I saw it as the highest compliment. Here we go. So we finished blackout, and all right. So I think we were here before we went on break. Team strengths. Yeah, okay, team strengths, what we're talking about. So, okay. So again, you want to make sure that you put people onto tasks that comes, natural to them, and obviously they have the competency for it. And if it's a big project, always try to see if you can cross-train people, and ask if, let's say, Chris is interested in, again, learning Python or Java, and Alicio knows that if there's a way that you could, do a buddy system, so by the time we're done with the project, Chris knows more about Python or Java. Or let's say Sweta wants to learn more about the back end of data centers, not sure why, but let's just assume. And Victor knows that, so we'll have a buddy system. So by the time we're done with the project, everyone is much better than when we started. And if you have that in the back of your mind as you're looking at the teams, it makes a huge difference, because it also tells the team members, right, that you care about them, not just as a resource for the project, but also as a human being. So that goes a long way, especially when you have problems and issues and you need to pull all-nighters, or you need to have people work on the weekends. So organize around team strengths. All right. So team decision-making tools, it's best, okay. For the test, it's best to have all of your rules, norms, ground rules, documentations around that prior to any issue coming up, right? So prepare for the worst, right? Hope for the best. And the documentation should always be before, should always precede, right, any big task or work that's coming up. So if I'll give an example. So one of the projects I'm helping out with is this 22-story tower in Children's in Philadelphia. So we're trying to put together the governance. We started the kickoff last week. There's probably 30 subgroups here that I know of. Do you think there's going to be conflict? None whatsoever. 30 subgroups, maybe about 500 people involved. And so the first order of business, I'm their, governance consultant. The first order of business is to create all of the ground rules, the charter, everything before we start getting into all of the discussions around this new tower. So in real life and for the test, make sure that you complete this prior to having those sessions, right? So you need to understand what tools are you going to use for decision making. And again, PMI doesn't, give you a preference. As the most important thing is you all agree that this is how we're going to make decisions. Is it majority vote? Is it by subgroups, and the subgroup that's assigned to it, like a task force, and they come up with a recommendation? You just need to figure out how you're going to do it. And this is what's called the way of working, or the WOW, right? So way of working is how we decide, how we're going to make our decision making. So way of working. So the way of working is actually also a term that's mostly used in Agile, but not exclusively. So we talked about brainstorming in our last session. Again, for the test, take everything and look at brainstorming as a funnel, right? So top of a funnel, you have all of the ideas. It's super wide. And as you get through the bottom of the funnel, you start to weed out, ideas that don't make sense. Does that make sense? So think of a funnel when you think of brainstorming. All right. Estimates. These are tools that you can use. Don't worry about figuring this out now. When we get to cost and risk, we're going to go through all the different types of estimating tools. But suffice it to say, there are different ways of doing estimates. For today, I'll just give you high level. So if you have your pen and paper or your fingers to keyboard, I want you guys to write this down. So the first type of estimate that you will be super familiar with as we go along is called analogous. So it's here on the screen too, analogous right here. The second is parametric, and the last one is bottom up. Okay, we're gonna go through each one here. Analogous simply means comparing to something similar, right? Comparing to something similar. And I'll give you an example. Let's say that Patrick is a real estate broker. And Patrick, where do you live?
I'm over in Ventura.
Ventura. All right. So Patrick, you're a real estate broker, and I ask you, hey Patrick, I'm looking at moving into your area. I'm looking at a 3-bed, 2 baths, bathrooms. How much would that cost me roughly? What would you say?
I'd say about 1.2 million.
1.2. Okay. So notice how Patrick was quick to give me a response, right? And notice how this is high level. So analogous estimates is high level, right? It's easy to give, and it's based upon, Patrick, what did you base that 1.2 on?
I feel like I've seen similar listings out there.
There you go. Absolutely it. Similar listings, right? So analogous means similar estimates. So you look around, houses are around 1.1, 1.2. So the beauty of analogous estimates is it gives you an idea. So let me go to Jennifer Mansourian. So Jennifer, same thing, real estate broker, but you're more in the Bel Air area, right? So 3-bed, 2 baths, roughly, I'm not going to hold you to it. How much would you say that would be? I'm trying I'm new to California, I'm new to Southern California, and I'm just checking out the different neighborhoods. How much would you say that would cost?
So Bel Air, 3-bed, 2-bath.
Yeah,
I would say 2 million.
2 million, right? So class, what does that information give me? So Ventura 1.2, Bel Air 2 million, what does that give me?
It lets me know where I can't buy a house.
Yeah, I'm actually gonna need a third option, right? So, that's still too expensive. So it gives you quickly a rough estimate, right? So let's say your budget is around, I don't know, let's say 850, right? So are you gonna pursue Jennifer and say, yeah, let's take a look around that neighborhood? Probably not, right? Because of that estimate, right? Um, so, um, so analogous, right, is high level, super quick. You're looking at similar, and it gives you a rough idea, right? So in the same way, I think I have Mike join. Mike, are you on?
I am. I was on mute.
Oh, here you go. Oh, no worries. So Mike, as you mentioned in our first session, has done a lot of construction projects. So, and he also built out a lot in Irvine. And remind me, Mike, were you involved in the Spectrum or South Coast Plaza, those guys?
Not South Coast Plaza, but the Spectrum, yes.
Spectrum, okay.
Pelican Hill and Shady Canyon and all of that stuff.
Cool. So, Mike, if a new developer came to you and said, "Hey, Mike, we want to build, you know, something like Shady Canyon and let's say RSM," would you be able to give like a high level estimate of how much that would cost them?
No, not just off the top of my head. There would be a fair amount of discovery work that'd be needed first.
Absolutely. So the reason I brought that up is there are limitations to analogous, right? So once you get into a lot of different variables, let's say, you know, a shopping center or an entire community, there are too many variables to just give you you know, top of head number versus the 3-bed, 2-bath example that we gave. So analogous is really good when you have few variables, just want to get an idea. We're not really digging into, you know, what the kitchen looks like. I just want to know, in this example that we ran with, you know, which neighborhood fits my budget, since, you know, I'm new to SoCal, I don't know what the different communities are. So that's analogous. So the benefit of analogous, it's easy to do, gives you a high level. The downside of analogous is it doesn't give you enough details, right? It's just a starting point, but you can't base your final decision off of it. Does that make sense? So it's a starting point, but not a final, you know, basis. Parametric is a little better in terms of giving you more details. So this is when you start using a little bit of math. So an example would be if it takes you 1 day, for example, to paint a wall, one wall. If it one wall, 1 day, how long would it take you to paint 4 walls? How many days?
4.
4, right? So what we just did there is we took a data point, right? And we just extrapolated. So that's what parametric does. So you take a data point, you extrapolate, so it gives you a better idea. So the benefits of parametric is more precise than analogous, but still you're extrapolating, right? And the extrapolation might not might not be as accurate, because let's just stick with the wall example. let's say that one of the walls actually needs some patchwork, right? So that might take a little longer than just the, one wall, one day, but it gives you a rough idea. The last one is bottom up estimating. So as the term implies, you look at all of the items, right? And then you add up everything. So let's say that, sticking with that 3-bed, 2 baths, you tell, the realtor, I want granite countertops. I want quartz here. I want mahogany. I want this. I want that. And then you add all of that up, and that's going to give you the estimate. Now, the benefit of this is it's the most accurate of the three, right? The downside is it takes a lot of time, and you don't want to bottom up estimating if you're just trying to figure out, high level, right? With sticking with our example of the community, you don't need a bottom up of how much does a 3-bed, 2-bath cost in Bel Air, right? Who did I say? Was it Jennifer that gave the answer of 2 million or something? Jennifer, yeah. So when you said 2 million and my price range is 850, I'm not going to ask you for a bottom up because it's out of my range, right? That's not a good use of everyone's time. So be very familiar because you will get a question about these 3 types of estimates. Not all 3, but one of them. Be very familiar with the pros and cons. And actually, let's do this. Victor, analogous estimating, what do you remember about it?
It's high level and kind of takes similar generalizations and easy to do.
Easy to do. What's the downside of it?
It's not necessarily accurate if there's many variables.
Yeah, so it's high level, but you can't, it's a starting point, but not the end point, right? So not as accurate. Patrick, parametric, do you still remember what we talked about with this guy?
Yeah, that was like the wall example, right? Like you have some semblance of your computation, but you're still extrapolating.
Exactly. So you have an idea and then you're extrapolating it. So it's much better than analogous because you're doing a little bit of math, but it's not as accurate as the last one. And for the last one, let's go to Melissa. Melissa, do you still remember bottom-up estimating?
I knew you would ask me this question because that's the
No
one.
way. Did you really? Did you really?
I was like, I'm gonna get asked, and I missed that one. I was gonna ask, and then I was like, I'll just wait. I'll look it up, and then.
All right. So call a friend, Melissa. Pick someone in the group. Call a friend.
Patrick, you're right next to me, so
I'll be your friend.
Thank you.
So that one was like the example of like the different countertops. You're trying to get a really accurate estimate, but it's gonna take you more time. And you're not probably gonna do it for every single house you look at.
Exactly. So what's the benefit of bottom up?
The benefit is
accurate?
accurate, yeah.
Accurate. What's the downside?
Time.
You just said it. Takes a lot of time. So the point to remember is that there isn't one that's better than the other, period. They're all used for different things, right? So if you're just looking around the neighborhood, you don't want to do bottom up, you want to do analogous, right? But as you're honing in and like, okay, we're going into this neighborhood, this part of the street, this house, then you go to bottom up. So for the test, just remember that bottom up is not better than analogous. They can be used for different things. Does that make sense? They're like tools in the kitchen, right? There's a big knife that you would use for maybe cutting through, big portions of protein. And then you have the smaller knife, maybe for fruit. And one is not better than the other. It's just different usages. So it's the same thing there. All right, and lastly, I'm gonna stop sharing my screen. You pick on Nikki.
Yes.
So Nikki, if you don't mind telling us the 3 types of estimates.
Analogous, paramedic,
Parametric,
and
yep.
I'm sorry, parametric and bottoms up.
Bottom up. Thank you so much. That was it. All right. And again, we're going to go through this when we get to cost and risk, but just wanted you to be familiar. So when we get to that, you'll master it at that point. Okay. So for Agile, another thing to note is that we don't use absolute time estimates. What that means is that, and we'll get into this later, when we're looking at sprints, for example, and iterations, we have an idea like, okay, for this sprint, for example, we're going to try to get through 3 user stories. We're going to try to get through, maybe 5 items in our product backlog. And the reason why it's not absolute is because of the iterative process, right? Because remember, you make a change, right? And then you immediately go to the stakeholder. Hey, Victor, what do you think? What do you think? Right? And then Victor gives you feedback, and Victor might say, oh, that's pretty cool, but how about we make this change? And then you take it back to the team, right? And then you make that change and show it back to Victor. So maybe the second iteration, Victor says, all good. And then you can move on. Or maybe it takes 5, right? So it's more estimates and not absolutes because of that iterative process. Does that make sense? So we don't finish a product and then show. As we're building it, we're showing it. So, hey, Melissa, how does this look? Oh, I don't like it. I don't like the color. Let's say we're creating a flow sheet. And then the letters are a bit squished to the middle. Can we spread that out? And like, okay, we'll go back, fix it, and I show it again. Hey, Melissa, how does this look? I don't like that shade of green. Can you go back and make it lighter? Okay, we'll go back until we get it to Melissa's specs. And what's amazing is that, and I've seen this happen over and over again, after there's a certain point where you get diminishing returns, where people eventually go back to what they asked for the first time. Have you guys seen this where you ask them, how would you want it? And they make changes, let's say with the color or the format or whatever. And then eventually like, yeah, you know what, let's go back to green. So it's very important that you set the stage, again, even though it's estimates, you set the stage by saying, we're going to try to complete this in 3 iterations, right? So think through it, be mindful, and we're going to try to get this done in 3 iterations. Because if you just give unlimited iterations, guess what? They'll have unlimited suggestions. So, Melissa.
Yeah, I threw up my hand right before you said that because I was like, I don't understand how agile can be faster than waterfall method if like you're going back for every iteration. But that makes sense that you say, okay, we're gonna set this at 3 iterations. But then what if like the 3rd iteration is totally awful? You're kind of stuck, right? You have to go back.
That is a really good question. Actually, we have 8 minutes here, so this is perfect for Mike. If you don't mind, um, I'd love for you to share my favorite construction billionaire, your former boss, and his obsession with iterations.
So I've told a couple of those stories. I'm not sure which one you're referring to, but
Oh, the one where
prototyping. That one?
yes, yeah, where he would shred everything and all of that. So.
So what's Ian referring to is when I was doing construction in Orange County, I worked directly for Donald Brennan. And Donald Brennan is the owner of the Irvine Company. And some of the projects that we did were very large and some of them were quite secretive. He kept a very a tight control on some of the design elements that he really wanted to make sure were done to his specifications. And there are two very specific instances that I have chatted with Ian about in different sessions that he likes. And I'll tell you both of them in this particular case. One of them, when we were building Pelican Hill, if anyone's ever been to Pelican Hill for dinner or restaurant, or if you've been fortunate enough to stay there, the bungalows are set up in a building of like 3 units. And then there's another building with 3 units, another building with 3 units. So part of that project is we built a tilt-up concrete building in Irvine that was large enough for us to build a full-scale model of one of those 3-unit bungalows complete. And we would build it to the specifications of the architect so that Mr. Brand could see it in 3D, what it looked like, what it felt like. And when we got the floor plans exactly right, we were instructed that we had to not just destroy it, but we had pulverizers on site. So every item used was pulverized into dust. So we went through multiple iterations of prototyping it to build it until it was exactly right. And once it was exactly right, then we went through the same exact process to do fit and finish. What roofing material, what window material, what fabric, what furniture, what phones, like absolutely everything. What bathroom fixtures, what tile. And as we would complete it, rather than salvaging anything and reselling it or whatever we could have done with it to recoup some of the money, his standing instructions were to pulverize everything. Nothing left that tilt-up concrete building. It was built, it was top secret. You needed all kinds of security to get in. And once it was done and he didn't like it, it was rip it down and start over. It wasn't just kind of take out the interior and build again. Every time we did it, it was a ground up build. And it was full size, full scale with everything. We had almost, I think it was just shy of 3 dozen full size prototypes built, furnished, finished, roofing material and everything. And this stuff was really expensive. It was just ridiculously expensive to do that. But he really wanted to see what it looked like, felt like, walk around in it. We had artificial sunlight that would be facing where it would hit for that bungalow in Pelican Hill. And we would move it around so we'd see what the colors would look like at different times during the day. If it was cloudy, if it was sunny, different window material, all of that was part of the prototyping. And when we finally got the final sign off on everything, the final building was pulverized, as was the entire tilt-up building, taken down and made back to an absolute flat lot. The second example of that sort of extreme behavior is when we built Shady Canyon. Shady Canyon has a private golf club that's part of it. And in the golf club itself, there's a rotunda entrance. And he would personally source the stone that would go into the flooring in that rotunda entrance. He would have the stone delivered. He would tell us when he was going to be on site. We'd have to have it installed and ready for him to see it in place. And often it was only a day, and it was a pretty good sized area. So we'd have to work a 24-hour shift to lay this floor. And if he didn't like it, it was rip it out, pulverize it, and wait for the next tile to arrive. We did 11 of those floors before he got the floor that he liked. And each time we did just that floor, just that rotunda, it was about $1.1 million, $1.2 million just for that piece. And it just would be that not right, rip it out, do it again. I'll send more tile, rip it out, do it again, send more tile. And at the end of the day, the tile that ultimately stayed was the first tile that he sent over. Somehow the 11th install worked for him where the first one didn't. So yeah, his wanting to keep his control and wanting to absolutely make sure that things are just the way that he visioned them in his head were taken to the extreme with every one of the projects I did with him. Absolutely everyone.
So my
Patrick,
question
your
on that,
expression is the reason why I have Mike tell the story. The look on your face is worth it.
question, like, how did this man make money?
Well, so
Bitcoin.
yeah, so Donald,
The fees to stay there.
well,
I'm just
well,
joking. I'm joking.
I'm looking at the pictures at the.
Uh, so Donald Bren, a little bit of background. The Irvine Company, if it were a publicly traded company, it's not, it's privately owned, would be the world's largest real estate investment trust. They own virtually everything in Irvine is on Irvine land. They own most of La Jolla. They own one Wall Street where the stock market is. That's his building. I mean, he owns buildings all over the place, and there are several
Newport.
hundred
There's
thousand
tons of
apartment
Newport. Yeah.
unions. I'm sorry.
Oh, Newport, right, Mike? Like
Oh,
Newport.
and
Yeah.
yeah, the islands in Newport Beach. If you live on one of the 7 islands in Newport Beach, the underlying land is the Irvine Company. So you don't own the land; you rent the land from the Irvine Company on those homes. So yeah, he has no problem coming up with dollars for those types of things. And just the hotel and Shady Canyon, those projects for him were vanity projects, just things he wanted to do, and uh, didn't really matter if they ever made money or not. He just wanted them done. I know when I did the financial analysis for Pelican Hill, like it didn't make a dollar for 30 years. It was always, it never caught up. We already owned the land. The company already owned the land. The construction costs were $1.8 billion, and it's only like 200 rooms. Like you can't charge enough to make nearly $2 billion back with 200 rooms. And it's already super, super expensive. Anyway,
I
so
think Mike, I think what's the cherry on the top is that based on his site, he's a community entrepreneur, focuses on land preservation and conservation.
oh, we could have a big conversation about.
I know. I threw that in there because for kicks and giggles.
Yeah, I have lots of real information on that.
Yeah, I bet. Well, it looks like he's coming to the end of his iteration. He's born in
Yeah,
1932. That was a joke. Sorry, probably didn't.
he's an he's a really interesting guy, and for all of his quirks, and he has quirks. When you work directly for him, just give you an example, he would. When I worked for him, it was kind of pre-cell phone. You would get a pager, and he could call you 24/7, 365. You had 7 minutes to return his call. If you didn't get back within 7 minutes at any time, he would send somebody to your house to get you. And that was no joke. He did it frequently. And when he had something on his mind, he wanted an immediate response. And that immediate response was carried through to all of his direct reports.
Melissa, where do you live?
I do not live in Newport Beach. If you were wondering.
Well, send someone in 7 minutes.
Yeah, I think it would be a little hard to reach me. I live quite a ways inland.
Okay.
Anyway,
Wow.
yeah, I have, as Ian has pointed out, I have lots of Irvine Company stories. That's just one.
Yes, and Mike, thank you for sharing that. The look on Patrick's face was worth it. It's an extreme example of and in this case, he is the ultimate stakeholder. So Mike couldn't tell him, all right, Donald, you have one more iteration. So this is an extreme example. But if you don't have control of the iterations, this is what happens, to your point, Melissa. So Mike, thank you for sharing that story. Thanks for not getting tired. This is probably the 20th time I get to share that. But The look on Patrick's face was worth it.
It's crazy. Crazy.
Awesome. Well, on that note,
Been more crazy like this. There's more stories coming. I'm sure Ian will ask me.
yes.
It gets even crazier.
Yes. I'll leave a cliffhanger. There was an environmental lawyer back in the 90s that was fighting to protect the coastline in Southern California. And fast forward 2025, he's the environmental lawyer that started the practice in Europe and now is advising the Supreme Court in China. He is the environmental lawyer, hard stop. And I had him on as our guest speaker, right? We do our monthly guest speaker series. And he remembered Mike. And Mike was on the other side of the table back in the 90s from the lawyer, because Mike was obviously working for the urban company. So that's a cliffhanger. We'll share more of that. And what an amazing meetup with with James. So yeah, so I'll Mike share that story at a certain point. But cool. Thank you guys. Thank you, Mike, for sharing that. Let's break for lunch, guys, and then we'll reconvene at 2 o'clock. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, Ian.